So let's talk about requirements gathering, because that's a huge part of project management. If you don't understand the product you're trying to do, you can't really manage it. So, what are some ways to approach requirements gathering in different scenarios?
I'm probably doing it more, as I've used the technical term, loosey-goosey, in terms whomever is approaching me said, okay, well, what are you interested in? What are you wanting to build? And then are there any visuals that can assist with that? So for example, if they are, I haven't used a particular methodology with regards to requirements gathering. So it's more been off the cuff to determine that. I do know there are, wireframing and mockup tools, but I haven't used those as of yet. Because actually, I mean, a lot of the work I'm receiving in terms of consulting is very defined. Like, for example, they know kind of what they want to achieve and what they want to build. So it's not as open field, for example. Like, I do a lot of database consulting, and there it's more defined. Hey, we need this server set up in this way with these features and whatnot. Or, hey, can you help us find out why this particular set of queries is slow, or why the database is doing this, or, so in terms of gathering requirements, it's not like building a greenfield project as much.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen,
and even then, if it is going to be going that way, then I seek out visual guides. Like, so if you want me to build this particular thing, what visual reference do you have?
Right.
That I can call upon? Like, is it like Trello, but sideways, or, whatever it is?
Yeah, exactly. Or just draw a picture and scan it in and send it to me. What do you want it to look like?
And I've actually done that. I think I've just written something on a sheet of paper to share with someone.
Right. Which works just fine. It's nice and fast. I got a piece of paper and a pencil here. Boom, boom, boom. We're done. Actually, I prefer a whiteboard, but still, same thing. Same concept. So yeah, and I mean, that's a good point too, is that requirements gathering is going to differ from, am I doing some consulting work? Am I doing maintenance stuff? Am I doing just a new feature, or are we doing whole product design here? Going in fresh product design is going to have a tremendous amount of requirements gathering and market research and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I think, because when I started doing programming professionally back, when the Germans were still bombing England or whatever, we were having to write down, there were these forms that were for requirements gathering, and they had all this stuff you had to fill out, and it was handwritten forms. You fill out all these forms, you put them in a notebook, and you've got all your requirements documentation, and it would take forever. And nobody ever went back to look at those things. So that's kind of where I got the sense that the pre-done documentation was most of the time pretty worthless, because it was just paying lip service to, hey, let's write all this stuff out, and then nobody ever used it. It sat on a binder on a shelf and gathered dust, and it represented months of work. So
yeah, I mean, if you're going to be doing documentation, I mean, that's something that I think should be said. It needs to be used.
Right.
If you're just producing something, I mean, I hate to say it, but again, the more number of people on a project, there's always going to be CYA moment.
Sure.
cover or CYB, cover your behind.
Right.
When something goes sideways, then you could bring up the documentation or the email. Hey, look, it said do it here.
Right. But I think what I'm starting to notice has been a good workable pattern in all the different types of requirements gathering I've had to do, is that it all boils down to, I'm going to write a story for it. I'm just going to put a card in, a ticket, a story, whatever your methodology is, whether it's, hey, we've got a bug, or we want this new feature, or we're developing a new product and here are the things we want it to do. All that stuff just becomes stories in the system that you're going to be using. And then it's all available to everyone, and it's used because you actually use those to move that story along and do the actual development with it. And then you can use it for prioritization and planning and all that kind of stuff. So what I've found, the pattern I've noticed and I've been using and it's been working really well, is I treat requirements gathering all the same from a mechanical standpoint, regardless of where those requirements are coming from. Which really simplifies the communication channels, because it's not, okay, we're doing bugs, so I have to go look at this ticket here. But this thing is a new product, so we have to go look at this, all these Word documents and all this spreadsheet stuff. It's all in the same place.
So you're just saying you're going back to, you treat everything as like a GitHub issue, for example.
Essentially, yes. I mean, you just tag them appropriately, and I just find that makes communication a lot easier. And my brain doesn't have to spend a lot of time working out different methodologies for different types of requirement gathering. It's just, I get a requirement, write a story, and it just becomes a lot easier. So, mock-ups and wireframing. You said you haven't used those, right?
Not the actual tools. I usually pen and, if I go that, or if I need to go that route, I pen and paper it.
Yeah. I've used some of the tools like balsamic, however you say it.
Balsamic, I think.
Yeah. And there were a couple others too that I tried to use. They were useless in all the situations I tried. What was much more useful is just getting the people who needed to make decisions together into a room with a whiteboard and drawing it on a whiteboard. That was so much easier and faster. And, every time I'd go to use those tools, I'd end up back at the whiteboard. Because I'd bring these sheets out, these wireframes and stuff out, or showing them in the boardroom on the projectors and stuff, and we'd end up just drawing everything on the whiteboard anyway, even if I had those. So it just seemed like it's not terribly useful, those things.
Well, I mean, maybe again nowadays, I mean, if you have more distributed teams, or if you're actively building them in the mockup tool collaboratively, maybe that would work better. I don't know.
Perhaps. Although there are distributed whiteboards now too. So I've actually had a lot of good luck with those. So I don't know, maybe it's just me and I'm biased because I love a whiteboard, but I just ended up using those for everything.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.